Good day, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. So today we're going to talk about two concepts in JavaScript. One is the callback, callbacks and functions, and then the classes, right? So before I dive into JavaScript, I just wanted to talk about TIOBE index for August 2020, just to give you an idea about where we are in terms of JavaScript, right? Where JavaScript stands in the world in terms compared to the rest of the programming languages out there. I don't know how to pronounce it. This TIOBE or TIOBE, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry. My apologies if I'm pronouncing it in the wrong way. So, let me say TIOBE, right? Just or TIOBE or whatever, right? For August 2020, right? If you go to this website, right? I'll put the link below for information, right? If you look at it, you can see the ranking according to this specific index, right? So they do ranking different programming languages. So the number one is always number one and two. To always fluctuate between C and Java. I do not know what. There are a lot of C stuff out there, but I don't know why C ranks very high in the programming chart, because I mean, I started with the C programming language. C is a great language, right? But it's often used, in a low-level programming language. But that being said, it could be used for other stuff as well. So pardon my ignorance on that stuff, because I haven't worked with C for years. Java, I know Java's been used for different stuff. Python, that's used, very popular because of machine learning and deep learning, right? C++ as well. C#, yeah, I've used C# a lot. I'm a bit confused about VBScript, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe call me biased, but back in the days when I used to work with, when I started looking at VBScript, I didn't really like it, to be honest. I mean, and my apologies if I'm offending someone who's a VBScript developer. I do not like it. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I got into Delphi, because I found Delphi way better than VBScript, right? Maybe I'm biased, but I mean, if I don't know, I mean, it just, I don't know. I mean, there might be an old legacy product out there. People have to support it. So, yeah, so whatever, right? So, coming to the main topic. Sorry, I've been digressing with other stuff, right? So, JavaScript, right? JavaScript ranking, right? 7 compared to other programming, pretty good, right? Compared to other languages we have, like Golang is 17. If we're 17, jumping at number 11 now. Compared to Ruby, MATLAB, Rust. I don't know what Rust is about, but apparently I've been seeing quite a jump in the numbers in terms of Rust. I haven't done any Rust programming, so I do not know much about it. So, okay, so JavaScript, right? So if you scroll down a bit, you can see if you're an Apex developer, it's at 440, right? Not too bad, right? Because it's limited to Salesforce. And then we have a long-term history. If we look at the long-term history, right, from 1990s, right, JavaScript 2000, right, it was 6, and then it used to be 10, then 8, now in 2026. It's not too bad, right? JavaScript hasn't done bad, as people talk about. JavaScript is really a good programming language, right? You can do a lot of stuff with JavaScript, front-end, back-end development, right? So it's an amazing language, right? And so now the shocking part was the Pascal one, right? It was number 3rd, and then a 241, right? I mean, I still like Pascal language, man. It's a beautiful language out there, right? I mean, because I started with, when I started full-time programming career with Delphi, Pascal and Delphi. I mean, I still like it, right? At times, I do help out a couple of my mates, and I do a little bit here and there Delphi stuff. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's still, I would say that it's still amazing language, right? Okay. All right, cool. So, Hall of Fame. JavaScript, 2014, right? Pretty cool, pretty interesting, right? Golang won in 2016, which is interesting, but right, Python, I'm not surprised for Python. So the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is that JavaScript is not a dead language, right? If you're out there saying, oh, we have Python out there, we have C# out there, Java's out there, what's the benefit of me learning JavaScript, right? JavaScript is very, very useful. If you are someone who wanted to do web development, you need to know JavaScript, right? End of story. You can do TypeScript if you wanted to do TypeScript. TypeScript, it's a different topic, right? It's supported by Microsoft, so TypeScript is you get a lot of compile time checking kind of stuff, right? But by all means, I personally, I do like TypeScript, right? I worked with TypeScript, but I would highly encourage that you should learn JavaScript first, right? Before you go into TypeScript, and JavaScript is very important, right? If you are going to work on a React or Angular use TypeScript, so you can do TypeScript with Angular, or you're going to do Vue JS, right? Or other stuff, anything to do with the web. It's good to know JavaScript. So that's N plus Salesforce Lightning component development. It's very handy if you know JavaScript, right? Okay, that's all I wanted to talk about. This part of this index in JavaScript. Let's get into the code side of things, right? So now, if you're a JavaScript developer, right, who been using JavaScript for years, you know the importance of the callback functions, right? Callbacks are very important. It's used in different ways. You pass another function as a parent to another function, right? And if you have someone who never used callbacks, then I would think I'm not sure if you're really use the JavaScript to its true potential. I'm not I'm not blaming anything. I'm not I don't like to blame anyone. Everyone is amazing in their own way, right? Because we are all skilled in our own way, in our own capabilities, right? So we are all talented people, right? At times we may not get an opportunity to use the library to core potential for whatever reason. We are working on existing code base, or So I'm just saying callback is very important. So let's dive in. So let's say we have a very basic function, right? Let's say add. Let's say add, right? So, and then I have to like x, y. And then say return. I'm just doing a crazy dummy function, right? X plus y. So x plus y, right? I hope you know what I'm doing, right? So we have covered about functions and other stuff. If you haven't watched my previous video, I would highly encourage you to check that out, please. Cool. Okay. So now let's say for whatever reason, right? You got this library. You got this method function add from someone, right? And you wanted to use this in your existing function, right? And you wanted to pass it as a parent. So it's very easy to do that, right? So what we're going to do, so let's say we're going to write another function, further add, just adding 3 numbers, just to, just say Z, then to do X, and then Y, right? And then we have something called callback, we call it as a callback. And then you're going to do return Z plus, watch this, callback, right? And then you're going to do X plus XY. Okay, save it. Now we're going to do console.log, and going to do further add. Now here is the tricky part, right? So I'm going to add Z, you can do 1, X you're going to do 1, so I'm going to do 1. Right now, callback, right? So you need to pass the function as a parent. So what I mean by that, you need to pass add, not, right? Not add as this. We are not executing add in the parent place, right? It is getting executed here. So we can't pass add with the brackets. We need to pass this way, right? So save it, and right, it's pretty easy, right? So let's say I want to add 2. It should say 4. So what we have done? Let me recap, right? So think about a scenario, right? You were working on a third-party library, right, where you have a lot of functions, and you wanted to use that function in your own function as a parent, right? So you wanted to execute that function inside your method. So the best way to do that, you can pass it as a parent, right? And you can, it will do something like this, and it will do the job, right? Pretty easy, right? Straight and easy. So yeah, I mean, it's just read about it if you wanted to know more advantage of using callback functions, right? So I will highly encourage you to check it out and practice it, right? Because I'm covering the basis of JavaScript, right? And I would highly expect you to go and do further investigation and practice more, right? So right, cool. Right, so this is one of the things I wanted to talk about in terms of callback. So we're gonna do about classes, right? So ECMA 2015, right? So JavaScript introduced classes, right? So classes, you can write classes. You need to, so it's like a sugar coated in terms of prototype inheritance. So it's not exactly like what you're used to in your C# or Java, but it gives you the feel of that, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a class, we're gonna add a methods to it, and then we're gonna do an inheritance of another one, right? So that's pretty much we're gonna cover, nice and easy. And then for next class, we're gonna talk about some of the topic, right? So what we're gonna do, so the way to write a class is just type class, right? So you need to have a class variable, the class type. And then you put person base, right? And then you're gonna do, right? So the thing you need to pay attention is you need to type constructor, right? Now constructor is important. So what we're gonna do, I wanted to pass a name and age, right? Using this specific class. I don't want it to hardcode it, right? Because it doesn't make sense to hardcode it. So we're gonna pass it as a param. We're gonna do name, and then we're gonna do age, right? And then we do this dot name equals to name. This dot age equals to age, right? Nice and easy, nothing fancy about it here, right? Because we defined two fields in a constructor, and we'll be populating using a constructor parameters, right? Now we're gonna display that using a method. The way to write a method is pretty straightforward. So you're gonna do display person base, right? Let's display person base, and then I'm gonna do return, right? Console.log, right? And I do this dot name plus this dot age, right? Okay, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna make it as caps here, right? And I'm gonna do, you need to take care of your cases, right? Because it's a case sensitive language, so you need to pay special attention to that, right? Because if you're someone who thinks, oh, okay, I don't care about the cases, unfortunately, my friend, that's not how JavaScript works. It's a case sensitive language, so please pay attention there. Cool. All right. Okay. So now we've created a class, right? So a class called person base, and we have a constructor. We're passing two params through a constructor. That's a name and an age, right? And we defined two fields. This dot name equals to name. This dot age equals to age, right? And then we used a function, right? Display person base. So we are displaying information of the two fields using this specific function. Nice and easy, right? Nothing fancy, right? Now, how classes, if you're wondering, if you're still thinking, well, class is like a blueprint, right? And now we're going to create an object, which is like an instance of a class, right? So let's say I wanted to do let's pers object, right, equals to, now the way to instantiate a class, right, create an object, it's same like what we did for functions, right? So we do person base, and then we're gonna do Dave, and then we're gonna do let's say age is 20. Okay, now I wanted to display the information of the person base, so we're gonna do person object. So this is what I like about Visual Studio Code. You get intelligence, right? So person base, so this is a function, so we need to put the brackets here. So now we save it and go here, and then we're gonna do, right, Dave 20, right? So let me give a space here, or we're gonna put the bracket dash here. So I'm gonna save it, and then we're gonna do one, right? Okay, now this is interesting, fantastic, no problem with that. Now, what happens, right? Now, I wanted to inherit this one, right? Because I wanted to add age, phone number, and other stuff, right? So I don't want it to touch this base class, right? And I wanted to extend this base class, right? I wanted to do inheritance. Can we do that? Yes, we can do that, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to take this off, right? I'm going to delete it. Now I'm going to create another class person extend, right? We just name it whatever you want. Extends, right? This is a keyword. If you're a person base, if you're someone who used Apex, you know what I'm doing, right? So in Apex you have extend if you wanted to do inheritance. If you do implement, we are actually implementing an inheritance, right? So sorry, interface, right? So we're gonna do okay. Now we're gonna do constructor. Okay, now constructor, we're gonna pass the params. You're gonna copy the same. Just watch here, pay attention here, right? And now we're gonna add another call phone because we wanted to extend it phone number, right? Now here is the trick, right? Now I wanted to call the constructor of the person base, right? Because I don't want to duplicate the code, right? I wanted to use the functionality of the parent class, right? So how to do that? I'm gonna call super, right? And I'm gonna pass. You see, if I use the super, it's expecting name and age, right? And then I'm gonna declare a variable field here. Let's say phone equals to phone, right? Nice and easy, nothing fancy here. Okay, so what I've done here is that I created a new class, right? I extended the class, inherited, in other words, and I declared a constructor because constructor is very important. And then I wanted to pass the name and age, right? The way to do that, I use the super keyword to do that, right? Super will let you accept the name and age, right? Because it's obviously going to call the constructor of this one. And then I have declared a new field phone. So that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to use a new method called display person extend, right? And here's gonna be interesting. Return, right? And we're gonna do this dot display person base plus. And it's gonna do a space here, and console.log. Gonna do this dot phone. Okay, now we're gonna do okay, so it's gonna add this here and it's gonna add this here. Okay, now save it. So let me instantiate. Now I don't want it to do anything with the base class, right? So we're gonna deal with the child, right? The person extender. So let's create an object. So we're gonna do let PEROB equals to new person extended, right? Come on, right? And then we're gonna do, see, you got an option here, intelligence. So it gives you a help or hint to say what's all expected to be passed as a parent, right? So we're gonna pass same Dave, age 20, and the phone number. You can pass whatever you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay. Now we're gonna do perobs person object dot display person extended, right? And then gonna do this, save it, and then clear this, and there you are, right? So you could see it's called this one when you call this one, right? So I've initiated I created an object, right, of this class person extend, right? And then I have used that object to call this function here, display person extend. And so inside the person extend, I've called this constructor, called the parent person base, so which is fine. And then console log, I did to call this phone, right? That's pretty much it is. Now, that's all good, right? Now, one of the thing I just wanted to talk about is that let me clear this one, right? So I hope this is clear for you guys, right? You can inherit stuff, right? It's nice and easy, and you know it's like a sugar-coated syntax, but it works. If you're someone who came from an Apex background or a Java background or C Sharp, you'll find this one more familiar and more easy to use, right? Rather than using function, you know, kind of stuff, right? But you know, by all means, you know, it just so read about it more, right? This is very interesting concept to do. Okay, now what we're gonna do, I wanted to show you how to use a static function, right? So I'm gonna take this off here, right? Now I'm interested to make this as static, right? So when you declare a static, right, I don't have to create an object. I can create class. I can use class dot person base dot static here. Now there's a problem here in this case. So what I'm gonna do x here. What's that? P. Just gonna do p dot. Okay. Now I'll explain to you what I'm trying to do. All right. Just don't worry about it for now. P1 equals to new person base div 20 person base dot display person base, and it's going to do P1. Okay. Right. Okay. So now you're wondering what I've done, right? So I can declare a static method or a static function inside a class, right? But the static method, if you declare something as a static, right? So you know, if you're from other language, right, other programming language, you can't use using object dot that, right? So if I try to use this, let me show you one thing. Object dot display person base, right? And then I'll say P1. JavaScript is interesting, but you know it will error out, right? It gives you an error, right? So you can't use this one, right? So so what I've done, right? So if I wanted to use a static, right? I still need to create this. I've created this object, right? And because I wanted to use the method, the field of the constructor, so I created an object and I passed that object to this static method. So, or if you don't want to use a static method in this way, you can say you don't have to do this display, right? So you don't have to do this anything, right? And so if your static method is independent, right? You don't want it to do anything with these fields, right? You don't have to worry about creating an object. You can pretty much use something like this, right? So display, right? So as I mentioned, right, when you declare a function as a static, you won't be creating an object and using object dot that static method. That's not how it works. You have to use a class name dot the method, right, to make it work. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I know it's a bit confusing if you are someone who never used object-oriented programming before, so it might seem a bit rough at the time, but just for now, just keep into mind that if you use a static method, right, so you don't have to create an object, so you can use the class name dot method name, right? But it gets complicated when you're referring to the fields from a class. Then you have to use something I demonstrated initially, right? That's one of the way you can do that. There are different ways, but this is one of the way you can use it. Create an object of a class and then pass it to your static method, and that will does the job, right? It's pretty nice and easy, right? Nothing fancy about it. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. So this is a very short topic today. I don't want to talk more detail. It's Saturday. I got stuff to do, right? So I believe you guys have stuff to do, right? Maybe barbecue, going out with friends, drinking, whatever, right? Whichever part of the world you're from, right? I live in a small town in New Zealand. But yeah, It's nice cold winter out there, so I'm gonna do some barbecue. So, all right then. Thank you very much for attending today. Adios and greetings from New Zealand. Bye bye.